Welcome to this explainer. Okay, let's dive right into a seriously fascinating concept, spiritual preservation. Today, we're exploring Chapter 6 of the Bhagavad Gita. You probably know it as Dhyana Yoga or the Yoga of Meditation. But we're going to look at it through a really specific and honestly incredibly comforting lens. We're unpacking what we like to call the cosmic cloud save feature for your spiritual progress, breaking down the ancient text into easy-to-understand language.
Look, we've absolutely all been there. You spend hours meticulously grinding through levels in a tough game or working on a massive project, and then, bam, power goes out, system crashes, you didn't save, and literally all that hard work just vanishes into the digital void. It is the absolute worst feeling. Now take that super relatable frustration and scale it up to the ultimate human fear. What if we spend our whole lives trying to spiritually improve, doing the discipline, meditating, but we stumble right before the finish line? Do we just lose the whole shebang?
Well, enter Chapter 6 of the Bhagavad Gita. This chapter completely dismantles that exact fear. It outlines Dhyana Yoga, the systematic path of meditation, and in doing so, it reveals this profound cosmic autosave feature for all our spiritual efforts. The text basically guarantees that the universe is keeping track, and absolutely nothing is ever lost. Section 1. The gameplay of meditation, discipline, and balance.
Okay, so before you can save your progress, you have to actually play the game, right? And the gameplay here is discipline. But verse 6.1 totally redefines what it means to be a yogi. Actually, scratch the idea of a yogi just quitting life and running away to a cave. True renunciation is detachment in action. Think of the story of Lord Ram. When he was told he was going to be crowned king, he wasn't jumping up and down with excitement. And when, literally the very next morning, he was exiled to the forest for 14 years, he wasn't devastated either. He just accepted his duty without being attached to the outcome. That perfect equanimity, that is true yoga. So, to generate your spiritual save data, you need disciplined effort. Verses 6:11 through 6:14 give us an exact physical checklist for stabilizing our attention. First, you find a clean, quiet spot. You sit firmly, the text even mentions using kusa grass, deerskin, and cloth. Then you align your body, neck, and head perfectly straight to let that subtle energy flow. You focus your gaze steadily, like right at the tip of your nose, so you aren't constantly looking around the room. By locking in this physical stillness, you're creating the perfect environment to subdue the mind and focus entirely on the Supreme.
But, this discipline also extends to your everyday habits, and this is crucial. Extreme deprivation simply doesn't work. Verses 6:16 and 6:17 explicitly tell us you cannot be a yogi if you eat too much or if you starve yourself. Same goes for sleeping too much or barely sleeping at all. It is all about moderation. A yogi has to regulate their habits across the board: eating, sleeping, working, even recreation. That balanced lifestyle is exactly what mitigates material pains and lets your meditation practice actually take root.
Section 2. Taming the Restless Mind. The ultimate boss fight.
So if meditation is the game, then the mind is undoubtedly the epic boss fight we all have to face. Verses 6.5 and 6.6 hit us with a massive psychological truth. The mind itself isn't inherently good or evil. It's just a tool. It's all about where you direct your attention. If you conquer your mind, it becomes your absolute best friend, guiding you straight to inner peace. But if you leave it uncontrolled, it acts like an external antagonist, constantly generating conflict, basically becoming your own worst enemy.
So, how do we actually beat this boss? The strategy is laid out in verses 6.25 and 6.26. It requires two things: abhyasa, which is persistent practice, and vairagya, which is detachment. You have to gently, but very firmly, pull that wandering mind back under the control of the self, step by step. Every single time your mind wanders off to, say, your grocery list or some stressful email, and you actively pull it back to your meditation, that is a victory. That is you generating real spiritual data.
Section 3. Arjuna's fear of failure.
But what happens if you try this disciplined gameplay and you just fail? Arjuna, who is listening to all this from Sri Krishna, raises a doubt in verse 633 that is just incredibly relatable. He basically says, listen, this yoga of equanimity sounds amazing in theory, but it seems totally impractical. The human mind is as restless and hard to control as the wind. Arjuna is just validating that exact, very human struggle we've all felt when we sit down and try to quiet our thoughts.
And that leads to the crucial point, this terrifying fear Arjuna voices next in verses 637 and 638. He asks, what happens to the unsuccessful yogi? You know, the person who has faith, who really tries, but their mind wanders and they die before achieving perfection? Do they just perish like a riven split cloud? Because a split cloud just vanishes into thin air? Arjuna is terrified that if we fall off the path, we lose our worldly success because we gave it up, and we lose our spiritual progress because we didn't finish, leaving us with literally nothing.
Section 4. The Cosmic Cloud Save.
Krishna's reassurance.
And this brings us to Sri Krishna's profound, comforting reassurance. This is the ultimate cosmic cheat code. In verse 640, he promises that the universe absolutely has an autosave feature. He says, "O Arjuna, neither in this world nor the next is there destruction for such a yogi." Basically, someone who strives for good never ever meets a bad end. Think about how monumental that statement is. It means that absolutely no sincere spiritual effort is ever wasted, period.
Section 5. Leveling up across lifetimes. So let's look at exactly how this cosmic cloud save restores your data in your next playthrough, according to verses 6.41 through 6.45. Even if a seeker dies before succeeding, their progress bridges the gap of mortality. The data gets downloaded into a favorable rebirth. Krishna explains you're reborn into a pious, wealthy, or highly wise family. From there, your divine consciousness from your youth is revived, and you pick up exactly where you left off, moving steadily toward the ultimate goal of perfection over multiple lifetimes.
And verse 644 takes this even further. It tells us that by sheer virtue of the divine consciousness from their previous life, the seeker becomes automatically attracted to yogic principles in adulthood. They don't even have to consciously seek them out. The spiritual momentum from their past life just naturally pulls them right back toward meditation. Their spiritual alliance just cannot be deleted.
Building on that, in verse 6.45, once that saved data is fully restored, the yogi strives with sincere endeavor. They wash away whatever worldly contaminations are left, and they continue their effort with full speed until ultimate perfection is reached. The universe kept their progress completely safe so they could finish the journey.
Section 6. Becoming the Supreme Yogi, the highest level. So how do we reach the absolute highest level of this spiritual journey while we're here? Sri Krishna concludes the chapter by laying out a clear hierarchy. A yogi, someone practicing this disciplined meditation, is greater than the ascetic who just does severe austerities. The yogi is greater than the intellectual empiricist, the jnani, and they're greater than the fruitive worker who's just working for rewards. Therefore, Krishna urges, in all circumstances, be a yogi. But verse 6.47 takes it one step further to define the supreme yogi. It says that among all yogis, the one who meditates on God with deep faith, love, and devotion is the highest of all. Simply put, loving devotion is the absolute strongest connection you can have to the cosmic cloud. It ensures your spiritual progress is eternally secure.
So why does all of this matter to you right now? It's simple, and honestly, so encouraging. You don't ever need to fear failing at meditation. You don't need to worry that an imperfect practice is somehow a waste of time. Because according to chapter 6 of the Gita, every single minute you try to quiet your mind and practice, it is permanently banked in your soul. Your effort is eternally safe.
I'm leaving you with this thought to spark your journey today. What small piece of spiritual data will you upload to your cosmic cloud today? Maybe it's 5 minutes of focused breathing, or just doing your daily tasks without stressing over the results. Whatever it is, start building that save file. Thank you so much for joining me in this explainer, and I can't wait to explore more with you next time.